Hi everybody, welcome back to sprueVerse, my scale model universe, and we are starting a whole new journey today. I'm actually excited about this, and I'll tell you why. It's not because what's on the bench is like, wow, I mean, it's more like it's time to kind of take it to the next step for me. And this year is Wonderfest, which is going to take place end of May, beginning of June, in Louisville, Kentucky. And if you don't know anything about Wonderfest, please go back and check out my video from last year. And I give you a whole tour of it. And it was my first experience there. And wow, talk about kid in the candy store. And I was there because the great Lou Del Maso over at Aztec Dummy suggested that I do that. Now, I do follow his lead on most things, except when he tells me to put my head in the oven. I won't do that. But all things model making, he is my guru. And I don't say that to be cavalier. I say that just because personally, we all have friends in the community. We all look up to each other and we all follow each other's videos, and we get great ideas from and inspiration from people. But he is who inspires me when it comes to learning the craft and trying to just get better at what I'm doing. And so what I've decided to do is attempt to build this. It is the Bandai Scout Trooper, and it is 1/12 scale. And what I want to do is I'm going to put it in a diorama, and I'm going to bring it to Wonderfest, and I'm going to actually I'm going to put it into competition. Now, I don't expect to even get a, well, thanks for coming, but I want to go through the experience of doing that, and I want to feel what that's like to be a part of everybody who works so hard to put these beautiful pieces of art together and then share them with their community. So that's what I'm doing. And so I've decided to do a land speeder with a Scout Trooper for a couple of reasons. First is it's a relatively good size model, but it is small enough that I can get my head around it and my hands around it. And I'm going to sort of do what I can to weather it and make it look great. Now, so that's the box art, which I'll put over there. Now, this is not about an unboxing, so we're not unboxing anything. No, we're talking about it. We're talking about strategy and what I intend to do. Now, I've built several of these kits, and the engineering on them is obviously terrific. And the detail on them is terrific as well. For the most part, they snap together beautifully. However, if you've made a mistake and you want to try start sort of prying things apart, that's when you're going to run into trouble. There are a couple of tools on the market that allow you to do that, to actually pry them apart. Of course, because I want to find mine, I can't. But it comes from, it actually comes from, I believe Bandai sell them. It's a little handle with a blade, and it allows you, and it's relatively sharp, but you won't cut yourself with it. But it allows you to pry into the seams without sort of chipping or making any kind of a mark on it. Definitely. Have one of those if you're going to play with these kits. Now, obviously, you can certainly build this out of the box and it'll build you a fine model, but it's in basic colors. So you can see we've got, the grays for the engine area. This is the blacks for the body. These are all the black parts, and even where the fabric is supposed to be here, maybe you can see that better here. You can see all this sort of fabric-looking folds in the various parts there, and that's all cool. And then they give you this sort of small standy thing, supposed to be a bit of a tree, I guess, and some dirt. And so we're going to be putting that aside. And then there's just a basic stand here if you want to obviously just stand up the the trooper. And then, you know, with the bike itself, it's pressed in this brown plastic, and it's perfectly acceptable if that's what you want to do. And then, of course, it comes with all of these various different joint holders, you know, the inserts that allow the ball joints to, and the various different articulations of this model are given to you through this little sprue. And we've got some hands, and we've got some other pieces as well. And then you'll notice we've got this white sprue that is empty. And the reason why it is empty is because I've cut them all off and I'm painting them. So everything is on little toothpicks and I'm painting them. Now I've given them a spray of Mr. Surfacer's 1200 fine coat primer. That's gone on first. And then I've done a matte coat of the Tamiya enamel spray. And now it's going to get a top coat of a semi-gloss. And that's going to allow me to do all my chipping and aging and weathering. And then I'll put a finish coat over that, a varnish of some kind. I don't know. I'm probably a matte, right? Because it's got to look weathered and dirty. Now, interestingly enough, I've done some experimenting, as it were, and my my panel liner from Tamiya. You know, we've all got our panel liners, right, in our various different colors, and that's an enamel-based sort of wash, as we know. And I have tested that on a couple of pieces of another kit, you know, sort of that I'm not using, a Trooper. And I have to say, you get an interesting result. So ultimately, if you didn't want to paint it, but you just wanted to use a little bit of wash, that certainly will work with a little bit of your enamel thinner on a Q-tip, and you can actually play with it, and then you can actually hit it with a varnish and seal that quite nicely. I tried it, and it works fine. But we're going to go to the extra length, obviously. Now, one of the challenges with all of this is sort of, you know, when you start painting these things, as most of you will all know, so forgive me if I'm coming at you from too much of a novice angle, but I have to remind myself when I do these kits about these things all the time. So it's not necessarily about a novice, it's about sort of thinking through what you're doing. And what you don't want to do is get any kind of paint on the surface of the ball joint and various different joints that hook together with this sprue. You don't want to do it because it'll make it really difficult for you to get those parts together nicely. That's number one. Number two is there is going to be a little bit of seam work here, but I'm going to do my darndest to sort of do what I can to avoid any of that. But because I'm going to try and put this into competition, seams are a no-no. And so if they see seams, I think they'll just pick it up and put it in the trash. No, they won't do that. But you're just not going to get to that next step. You know, it's like, it's interesting. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a car show, you know, like a d'elegance. And, you know, the judges come around and they look at these cars and they're looking for very, very specific things, you know, that make that car look original, that make that car look, you know, not restored for any other reason but the restoration has to sort of almost disappear as if it didn't happen, to make the car look as authentic and as original as possible. And I think that's true with model making. If you try to put something into competition, a lot of it is on your basic mechanics. They don't want to see any glue spilling out of any joints. They don't want to see any unfinished areas. They don't want to see anything that perhaps looks like it wasn't joined correctly, seams as well. And then, of course, artistic flair on top of it. How have you approached actually doing this? Is it, what kind of scheme have you used? Have you used any creativity? Have you gone beyond the sort of the basic to give it that oomph? So there's a lot of criteria. And so those are some of the things I'm going to have to start thinking about for the first time, because usually when I sit down at the bench and I do these things now, and I say this all the time, and it is true, every day I come to the shop, I want to learn something. I don't want to sit here and go, well, I know exactly what I'm doing, because I don't. And I learn every day. And it's not just from the good that happens, it's from the mistakes that happen too, that give you that body of work that just makes it more fun to be here. And I do genuinely believe that's one thing I want to pass along to everybody who's watching my channel. Have fun. Do try to learn something, and don't worry about mistakes. As the dear old Bob Ross used to say, they're happy accidents, because it's plastic. It can be repaired. It can be repainted. We are not going to go to the end of the world. But it is true, prep is very important, and thinking some of these things through are very important as well. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be painting all of these parts. Everything will get a coat of primer. And it's not that complicated that you'll lose your way with this when you take these off the sprue. The instructions, even though they're in Japanese, they definitely, the pictorial is pretty sort of obvious. There's only once in a while when you get confused about a direction of something. But for the most part, what I love about the Bandai kits is there's only one way for them to go. If it's not fitting correctly, or it feels like you're forcing it, that's your big cue that it's wrong. Stop and just take another look at the directions, and I promise you, you'll avoid a lot of stuff. But there's plenty to do here, lots to age and weather, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that. And we'll do as much of it in stages as we can. We'll sort of follow along with the build. I don't know how many sessions this will be, but we're about 13-14 minutes into the show, so I like to keep my episodes at around half an hour to 40 minutes. So we'll see where we get in that time period, and obviously I jump forward as well, but that's the plan. Is we're going to do a diorama now. So that's we're going to paint all the parts, and so that's that. Now, what are we putting this on? Well, what I've chosen to do is put it on this. Now, what we've got here is an awesome piece of wood, very heavy. I suspect it's oak. It weighs a ton. But wow, I just love the look of this. I mean, it is so dramatic. Here, let me see. I don't know if you can get a closer look at it. Yeah, look at this. How fun is this? Now, I found this at my local pet shop in the, build a terrarium for your favorite lizard section. And I just fell in love with it. So we've got that. And then we've got this little thing of beauty. And what this is, believe it or not, it's just a painter's board. It came with some oil paints, because I love to paint, and it came with some oil paints. So it's just a board, really. So it's got a nice quality to it. And I thought to myself, by the time we're finished with this and we've got a little nameplate on it and everything, I think it's got a nice kind of girth to it. It looks nice when the judges look at it. That's my logic, and I'm sticky with it. So anyway, so I thought that what I would do is obviously I've got to make this a this is the redwoods, right? This is the sequoia forest, so it's going to have to look kind of a little hilly, and it's going to have a lot of moss, and I've got a lot of weeds and plants and ferns. Fortunately, from when I did my ET mothership build last year with my dear friend Wayne over at World of Wayne, we went crazy on buying all of these plants, and so I've got ivy, and I've got ferns, and I've got, and I'm going to make some tree limbs and stuff like that. I've showed you how to do that on the channel, or how I do it on the channel before, and it's relatively easy. But if you do want to go back to my ET build, there's an entire episode actually dedicated to building the trees that go in the forest. But anyway, I digress. So this goes on here like thus, somehow, because I don't know, it just looks really interesting. Now, you're seeing what I'm seeing right here, right? And what's interesting is I'm thinking this is the actual front. Now, you certainly could turn it around, and you could do that, and you could say, well, that's the front, which actually, come to think of it, is not a terrible idea, except that there is this sort of nub here that looks like it's been sawn off, but that's not the end of the world. But what I am thinking is that this might be, this won't give us the opportunity that this gives us to see some terrain. So I do think this is the way to go, and it will set the model back a little bit, and just set it back in the model. So I think that's a good thing. And then the other thing I've picked up are these. Look at this. This is again, these are silk plants that you get at your local pet shop, and I'm going to paint them. Obviously, no, then we're not going to leave them this green. When was the last time you saw something that green in the forest? Although I have to tell you, ever since I started painting landscapes, which was about 7 to 10 years ago, it is amazing how your eye sees things in out there in nature. Take a look at things in nature. They are the strangest colors. They're not just one color. They're a spectrum of color. So it wouldn't be unreasonable to have something like this, I suppose. But I don't know how it's gonna, how we're gonna end up sort of putting this in. But we're definitely gonna. Well, we won't need that. And no, we're not just going to sit this in here and call it a day. I know all of you at the back of the class there laughing at me, but that's not what's going to happen. We're going to break these off, and they're going to be painted, and they're going to be, sort of used sparingly somehow. But what I do love about this is its scale. And so wherever I put these, it is going to sort of soften the model and set it back, and force you to kind of look at it. And I think that's kind of cool. Not expensive. It's $3, $4, and I'm sure you can find a ton of this stuff online. So anyway, that is the sort of the overall 50,000 feet. So I'm going to get back to sort of getting a coat of paint on all of the parts, and we'll sort of start assembling everything from there. Okay, so I'll come back as soon as we've got that next step ready to go here. So stick around. Okay, so our trooper, he's a scout trooper, is together. He's got a basic coat of white and matte black on him. All of the elements are on him except for a tiny piece in the back, which is here, that it just needs to attach. Just sort of needs to attach right here. And what I'll do is I will just paint that before I attach it, so that I can get it completely painted up. Lots of seams to deal with, but I've dealt with them, I think, in a pretty creative way. You'll be the judge of that. At the moment, and I'm going to point it out to you, I've put athletic tape down the big fat seams. Now, I've not blended them in yet. I've not done anything to sort of make them disappear, but I will, I promise you. They will disappear, and I think they're going to look pretty good. I've got a lot of weathering to do. There's one little gappage issue here that's driving me crazy that I'm going to deal with. But even though it's going to be sort of profile, you know, the bike's it's going to be profile to, you know, for the purposes of the diorama, it's going to sort of be on its side. So that's, you know, you won't see an awful lot of it, but I want to make sure I do the best job possible. So that's why I'm going to make sure that everything looks the way it should. Now, so lots of weathering to do here, lots of detail work, lots of washes, lots of blending, still a little bit of cleanup to do, some dry brushing, lots to do. But the basic premise of this is he's built. And so we'll set him to one side and we're going to concentrate on the speeder. Now, thanks to our dear friends over at Bandai, they've printed this, or I should say molded this, in colored plastic, which if you're going to just build it out of the box is appreciated because you'll get a pretty decent look. So you see the luggage rack, or the luggage, the cloth, the baggage at the back here needs to be put together, but that's just plastic. And then you've got sort of mechanical engine parts that are all in gray, and there's two of those trees. And then the dark brown tree here is your exterior plating and your control surfaces. Now, a couple of things to point out here. If you look at this control bar, there's potential here for 3 lights here to blink. May do that. May get a couple of might put a couple of very little nanos in there, or might even get some fiber optic in there. I'm not sure, but there's 3 lights, and it may be worth getting some light on here. I don't know. We'll have to take a look. On the other hand, it might not. You know, it's fun to try, and I do think it will definitely add some interest to the bike on the diorama. So definitely worth giving that a hard look. So I have got to give everything a coat of primer. So I'll take everything off the trees, except for the micro parts here, which I'll remove most of the areas and try to leave them on so I don't lose them, and hit those with some primer too. And I've also got some hoses here. Check these out. You get a bunch of these hoses here. Do you see? Now, I think I may have some rubber versions of this that from an old kit that just didn't get used. So I'll look in the stash and see what I've got, but I might very well have them, and that could be very interesting. Lots of opportunity here for dry brushing and for weathering and aging, but step one is to get all of this primed. So that's what we'll do right now, and then we'll carry on. So we are moving along quite nicely, actually, and I've been doing a lot of pre-painting, painting really, getting all the parts, just getting a coat of primer on all the parts, getting a base coat on all of the parts, and so that's been going quite well. Just to sort of recap on where we are exactly is our I keep calling him, he's a scout trooper. I've got a, I don't know why I keep wanting to call him a stormtrooper. He's a scout trooper. And so let me show you him here. We've been working on him. Now, he is not even close to being finished. 0 washes on him at this point. A lot of detail work to do, touching up to do. None of his black clothing areas, the black areas, have had any kind of pre-shading on them at all to accentuate any of the creases. So there's a lot to do. But he's basically put together, that's my point. And what I've done is, what I wanted to point out to you is the sort of the fabric areas I've created. What I've done is, I've been using my go-to, which is my athletic tape. And I covered the surface with that, and then it paints up beautifully. And it folds into the creases really nicely. You can see here, right here where I'm pointing, that's a fold crease in the plastic itself that the cloth has adhered to, and it really is quite effective. And when you look on the frame grabs, and I've been watching that speeder bike chase scene forever, you know, and you're never going to get any kind of proper colors from that. And even when you look at production stills of the bikes themselves, you know, I mean, it tends to sort of change. There's browns in there, there's some greens in there, there's some rusts in there, and there's obviously a lot of chipping and wear work. Lots of fun. So we're going to do our best to kind of throw that kitchen sink into this. But the only other thing I wanted to mention about this before we carry on here is, when you are putting these Bandai kits together, and this is for those who haven't done it, so for those of you who have, forgive me. But the way these are designed is, for the most part, to not use any glue at all. They're beautifully engineered, they really are. However, when you choose to paint these kits, and you don't have to, you can take them right out of the box, assemble it, and have a really decent model. But if you want to take it to the next step, you're going to be painting these. And when you do that, you have to take extra steps to make sure that the pins where the joins are supposed to go together are protected. They're not painted, because the way the engineers design these is they're perfectly tight fit. So any paint on those surfaces at all, and you're going to be in a world of hurt. You'll have to take it off, either with, you know, a little bit of thinners, or some water if it's right away. But make sure those surfaces are very clean. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get these pieces together. And even then, some of the fits are super tight. And you do have to be careful, because if you're putting too much pressure on something, something is wrong. Either you've got it the wrong way up, or you just don't have it aligned correctly or something. Don't force it. Just sort of back off and re-examine it, and you should be fine. Because some of the very smaller pins, if you try to push them into a hole that's got too much paint in it, for instance, they're going to mushroom out, and once they do, you'll never get them back in. You're going to have to clean them up with a hobby knife or something like that. And trust me, I speak from experience. But anyway, lots of fun, and we're going to continue to work on him as we go. The bike itself is coming along. You can see we're starting to add some dry brushing to it. Starting to play with some color here on these plates, the armor plating at the front of the bikes. Some dry brushing of some of the metal areas. And what I did was I put a coat of Tamiya's black gunmetal on this first. And what I like about that is that paint has some specks of metallic specks in it, and it creates this kind of sheen on the black. And so when you go to use your aluminums or your bronzes to dry brush over those, you get a really nice effect. You get this lovely patinaed effect, and it works really, really, really well to suggest heat scorching or metal that's just oxidizing in the air. It really works quite well. So I've been playing with that. So there's a base of everything on here, and I'll continue to sort of weather this and get it to where it's starting to look really good. But I'm working on it at this particular juncture like this, so that I can get to some of the detail parts. And then, of course, the exterior canopy here, I've started to put some dusting on the airbrush of some paint. I started with the sand yellow, and then I've also used a little bit of the what do you call it? Marin USAF brown, which is this one. And so the net result of that is after looking at a whole bunch of frame grabs, is that you know, you're starting to sort of pick out color. I've watched that chase several times. You know, obviously the way it's lit, there's no way for you to really tell. You do get some excellent references about things like the pack on the back here, which I've done in the same style that I did with all the other clothing. You know, this tape is a fantastic way to add burlap to anything. It really is well. And then the leather straps here are obviously just little thin pieces of metal, and they'll need touching up a little bit. But I wanted to get sort of something down so that I could at least know, you know, sort of the where I've got to go with it. It's always best to try and have those things pre-shaded and painted before you put them on the bike, because then you don't have to worry about taping things. So I'm continuing now with trying to sort of find that perfect look for the actual body of this thing. So I've pulled out a couple of things. I mean, I'm going to do some pre-shading now with my black, my 71057. Here, for those of you who are playing along at home, that is this one. And then after I've got that pre-shading down, I'm going to try a little bit of this, it's called Armor Brown. Now, I'm a sucker for marketing, so anything that says Armor Brown on it, I think you got to put on armor. But anyway, we're going to play with a little bit of that right now. But I've got the airbrush out, and so I'm going to do a little bit of pre-shading here, just a little bit, and then after we've done a little bit of the pre-shading, we'll come back and we'll put some of that armor brown on it, and we'll see how we go. Now, I'm yeah, so I'm gonna hit these areas with some black. You don't need to sit here and watch me airbrush, although you're more than welcome. I could just go live and you could watch me airbrush one day. I don't know. So anyway, I'm going to do some pre-shading now, and then I'll come back and I'll start actually adding some paint to this. I did put a layer of paint down here, but that's just to test it. You know, the wonderful thing about all of this is it's just paint. And as long as you're using very light dustings, you're not hurting it. You can just keep on going over it and over it until you get something you like. And that's what I love about this hobby, is as you know, the old dear Bob Ross said, there's no such thing as mistakes, just happy accidents. And so anyway, that's where we are. Quick update, and so come back in a little bit, and we'll have advanced the cause here, and we'll get dangerously close to looking at washes and details and chipping and that sort of a thing, which should be fun. And then we've got to talk about the base, because I may have had a change of heart in terms of that tree trunk I showed you in earlier on in the show. I'm thinking now that might be completely the wrong way to go, but we'll talk about that when we get a little closer to that. Okay, so just to sort of wrap up this particular episode, because I think it would have been too much to keep going, because I've got a base to build, and I've got to figure out some other things. But I wanted to show you exactly where we are. So I've been painting and aging and detailing and trying to sort of get this into some kind of shape, and it's coming along. I'm pretty happy with it. A couple of things that I'm really excited about, and I thought were quite fun. I used some of this reflective paper. I drilled a hole in large in what was the large sort of light, I guess. It was some kind of I don't know what it is, but it's a red light on the actual filming miniature. And what I did was I drilled a hole all the way through. I used some of this of my duct tape, metal duct tape on the back side, and then I dropped in some clear, and then I I dropped in my classic Solares, and I created this crystal, and it reflects quite beautifully without having a light. I think that's quite a result. I'm going to continue to do some chipping and wearing, but I've been distressing and aging and dry brushing, and I'm really happy with some of the results. I think it's really looking quite good. I'm very happy with it. All the details are on. I have not broken anything, which is for me is extraordinary, because I can break things very easily, but I'm very happy with the way this turned out. And here he is, and I'll show you here on this camera. He's doing pretty good too. He's in this wacky position because we're going to try and we're actually going to try and mount him on this machine in some kind of a position like that. He'll be off to the races. So I'm very happy with that. Now he'll pose quite nicely. I need a mounting point for this bike. Obviously, I think it's going to be a clear rod that will come out of the back here, the back, and what I've decided to do is scrap the tree trunk that I showed you earlier, and I'm actually going to go to the hardware store, and I'm going to pick up a couple of 2 and 3 inch plastic pipes, and I'm actually going to create some fallen redwoods, and I'm going to use a similar technique that I used on my ET trees. If you recall, I did a whole tutorial on how to do that. I use epoxy sculpt. Wrapped them out, let them dry, scraped them down so you got that classic bark line, painted them up, and they look really good. And then limbs out of some green tuft, for train making trees for HO Railway, and some branches out of some soft wires and that sort of a thing. So that's the direction I think I'm going to go. I'm going to keep it sort of traditional redwoods. I was worried actually that what I was attempting to do, and this is why you kind of have to sort of stage everything, right, is I was worried it started to look too much like an aquarium. You wanted to stick it in a tank, put some fish in there and call it a day, and I'm thinking, what am I doing? I really needed to take a hard look at a frame from the film, and it sort of struck me that I've got some really cool AK interactive ferns. I've got all kinds of vegetation and vines and things, and so we'll have a lot of fun with it. And I think one end of it, will just be roots that are growing out of the very end of the diorama, and that'll be fun. And then it will sit in there, and I think once this sits in there, it will kind of take on a different personality, and so that's what I'm sort of attempting to do. What I'm going to do now is, and you'll see this in the next update, because I'm not going to do it in this update. I think I think we've just we've taken up too much time, is I'm going to get out my my weathering pencils, my AK interactive weathering pencils, and I'm going to do some chipping and some battle damage. That'll be fun. I've got some decals that have to go on. Now they give you stickers and they give you decals. Interestingly enough, I don't know how much of this we actually need and how much of it we can actually paint. Here, I'll show you these very quickly. So these are the decals they give you. And they give you them in sticker form as well, which is curious. I suppose it's for those who just want to move on with their lives. If we, I think we'll follow the decals for sure. I think that's a better way to go, and we'll put the stickers in our little stash for a rainy day, I think. But I'm glad that where we can paint, we're going to paint. Where there are these little triangles that I know will end up on the sides of the armor plating in the front, we'll do those, because a little bit of color never hurts. The arms are here. Here are the arms. There's two of these. I built two of these, and they're dry brushed in gunmetal and then with a little aluminum over that. And then the hose itself is actually my black rubber from Tamiya, which I love to use. And I think they came out really well. So I'm happy with those. And the way we'll do that is we'll put, what we'll do is we'll actually very carefully get these into the hands of the driver, and then we'll attach that to the bike that way. You know, as I said to you earlier, this is sort of my attempt to take something to Wonderfest. But how in God's name I'm going to get this to Wonderfest from California, because I'm doing a driving trip beforehand. I'll have to figure it out. Anyway, as I've stated earlier in the video, lots of washes and stuff to do, but you'll see all of that in the final reveal. I've got a gun as well that I've got to just clean up and dress up for him. So that's it. I'm very happy with where we are. When we get together next time, we'll do a complete reveal, and we may even we'll start with, I think, building the diorama, and we'll finish that video with a reveal. But this is it, my attempt at a Bandai 1/12 scale Scout Trooper. Great fun. Do try one of these Bandai kits, and let me know how you do. But as always, I wish all of you, please be safe, be well, build something, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.